the expectations of blind people are really mixed up in society. We're told oftentimes, oh, you're so amazing. I don't know how you do it. I could never do it myself if I was blind. But then you're not trusted or you're not challenged, especially as a kid, to actually achieve your full potential. So it is out of that really that mixed up dichotomy of you're amazing and oh, don't touch the stove, that most blind adults come. And so the problem, I tell people, the problem isn't the blindness. The problem is that most people don't understand blindness.
As a young child, Edwina Adams was quiet by nature. She would whisper when speaking. In boot camp, she was thrashed for not yelling loud enough. But when she discovered her ex-husband was a con man, she started to make noise, proving you don't have to be loud to make some noise. Now Edwina's on a mission to motivate. So kick back and tune in for candid conversations with those who have harnessed the power of their voices. Let's make some noise.
Welcome to Let's Make Some Noise, where you can make some noise no matter what you sound like, and where noise is my acronym for a narrative of inspiration, strength, and encouragement. I'm very intrigued about the conversation we're going to have today. I have Angela Fowler on the show. She is the CEO of Real Life Access, and she offers coaching for businesses to help make their products and services accessible to people with disabilities. Hi, Angela. Thanks for being here today.
Oh, I'm doing well. Happy Friday.
Thank you very much. So we're going to jump right into this so people know what we're talking about and why this is a passion of yours. So Angela, you are blind, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us, especially, I'm a business owner, and I know that a lot of business owners listen to this show. For one, what is your background? Were you born blind? Did something happen? What is your story?
I was born blind. And when I say blind, I mean totally blind. Can't see a darn thing. You
Okay.
guys describe it as black. I have no idea what that means.
Hmm.
And people say, "Oh, you see black, huh?" I'm like, "So you say." Um, and really, I grew up in mainstream school and with parents that were, did the best they could. But the expectations of blind people are really mixed up in society. We're told oftentimes, oh, you're so amazing. I don't know how you do it. I could never do it myself if I was blind. But then you're not trusted or you're not challenged, especially as a kid, to actually achieve your full potential. So it is out of that really that mixed up dichotomy of you're amazing and oh, don't touch the stove, that most blind adults come. And so the problem, I tell people, the problem isn't the blindness. The problem is that most people don't understand blindness.
So, as a seeing person, what would you tell me then to help me understand it a little better?
Well, I'd say two things. Whatever you think we can do, you're probably underestimating, and most people do. But approach with curiosity rather than skepticism. Of course, you don't know exactly how I'm going to go out tomorrow night, light the barbecue, and cook my tri tip. You don't know what techniques that I use in order to know that I'm doing it safely. But I've been doing it for over 20 years. So
Wow.
instead of like a lot of people, oh, there's no way a blind person can cook. Approach it with, how do you do that if you're blind? What techniques, what tips and tricks of the trade do you use to do that?
Yeah, that was going to be my first question actually is in your community, do you find that most blind people welcome the questions. Because I know, there's a lot of people that they are curious, but they don't know if they're being rude if they ask. So, would you say the overall consensus is no, we would love for you to ask because that shows you care and you're interested?
Hmm.
Is that how it is?
Generally speaking, now, some blind people, uh, we get asked a lot how we do things. And sometimes, like everybody else, we get, I call it blindness burnout. So if you run into an angry blind person, if you run into somebody that gets snappish, that's probably what it is. They're probably just tired of answering questions
Yeah,
repeatedly.
that makes sense.
And sometimes if people approach their questions with skepticism, you always take it out on the innocent person, right? So if four people approach their questions with skepticism, and you approach your questions with curiosity, by that time we're like, we're gonna take the sins of the last four out on you because we are unfair, just like every other human being on the planet. That's how that
Right.
works.
That makes sense.
It's always the innocent person, and then we feel like absolute, crap humans. But I think it's one of those failings of human nature that people do that.
When did you start your business and what made you be entrepreneurial minded?
I've always been entrepreneurial minded. When I was a kid, I'd make small objects out of wood, and sell them to family and friends. That was not a very big
Yeah.
market. So, needless to say, that business did not provide the income that I was hoping it would. But when you're seven, you'll take what you can get.
Yeah.
Um, I went on to when I was a younger adult, I found out that I was pretty good at making beef jerky. I had a dehydrator, and I'd make and sell homemade beef jerky, and that actually was a side hustle that got me through some pretty lean months financially. It
Mm.
would, you take a couple of jerky orders at the end of the month and it gets you through. Um, but this business came out of a real mindset shift. The thing about people with disabilities, there are a lot of advocacy groups for people with disabilities. And they're doing great work, but they tend to encourage, sometimes without even realizing they're doing it, they tend to encourage a victim mindset. Like other
Okay.
people, we are affected by the actions of other people to the point where we don't have control of our own destiny. And as people with disabilities, as individuals with disabilities, we really need to break away from that, and we really need to start taking control of our own. I'm the hero in my story. Okay, maybe some things are accessible. Okay, maybe I'll run into somebody here and there that's a complete doofus about blindness. Those things happen. They're going to keep happening. But I'm the one that decides at the end of the day whether the day is successful by my own actions. But I really had to come to that point because I was caught up in the advocacy movement for a while. And so I really got frustrated, and it leads to this resentment of, in our case, sighted people. So I got a job in 2021 working for a contractor that was working on the Department of Veterans Affairs website. I called it the job that changed my life. Not only did it nearly double my salary and propel me out of debt, I could sleep again, but I started working with people, with sighted people, who had varying degrees of knowledge of accessibility, from completely clueless to knowing more than I do. And they had one thing in common. They wanted to do the right thing. They wanted to make sure that the VA website was accessible. They wanted to create a culture within the organization that welcomed me. They just didn't know how to do it. They just didn't know they want to do the right thing. They just don't know what the right thing is. And even the people who were initially resistant to accessibility, Once I showed them how a screen reader worked, once I showed them why creating accessible content is so important, I've seen people have gone from being resistant to being my strongest supporters.
That's
In
awesome.
fact, the joke is that they drank the Kool-Aid. That was
Right.
a running joke on one of the teams. Yeah, we drank the Kool-Aid.
So this is so cool. So your mindset shift happened just like 3 years ago. Is that what you're saying?
It did. It really did. And
Yeah.
you know, I applied that to businesses who may not have even thought or even, in order to have a thought, something has to create the thought. So if you've never interacted, if you've never seen somebody with a disability or how we do things, you're not going to think about it. So it's not that most people want to do the right thing. Not only do they not know what the right thing is, they might not even know there is a right thing. So I said, okay, businesses are really leaving money on the table by not being accessible. Business owners are missing an excellent opportunity to welcome people with disabilities into their customer base, into their business by not being accessible. How can
Yeah.
I show them? How can I give them the Kool-Aid so that they too can be
Hmm.
one of the accessibility champs?
I love that. And I'm a veteran, so I think that's cool to hear that the VA is working on this and has worked with you personally.
And they continue to work on it. Are there
Yeah.
still issues? Yes. The VA is a big, slow, annoying bureaucracy. But the
Hmm.
website, the online, the online services, those are much better than they were just a few short years ago. I
Do
can
you know any statistics, like what percentage of the population needs accessibility like this?
so let me I'll give you the statistic and then I'll explain it. About 25% of people have some form of disability. This is blindness, motor disability, invisible disabilities, mental disabilities. A lot of those disabilities require very similar accessibility fixes. There's some things that are just for one group or the other, but if you adopt a comprehensive accessibility strategy, you're going to cover everybody. Now, Angela, you just said I might not have met a person with a disability, and then you're saying that 25% of the population has a disability. How the heck does that make sense? Most people with disabilities try to conceal their disability. They don't want to be different. They want to be just like everybody else. So they take steps to say not act blind or not act disabled. So you may not know, and the disability might not be apparent. If you're talking on the phone with somebody and they don't tell you they're blind, you don't know they're blind. If it's not relevant, they're not going to mention it. So I
Yeah.
tell people you're in one of three categories. Either you have a disability, you know somebody with a disability, or you don't know you know somebody with a disability. Now, how about this for a statistic? The collective buying power of people with disabilities, because the government doesn't count seniors in their statistics, we do. The collective buying power of people with disabilities is over $2 trillion. That's trillion.
Yeah, I believe that.
So what happens when a person with a disability encounters a business that isn't accessible? They're going to get mad. They're going to complain. They're going to go on social media like everybody else these days, right? That's what the kids do.
Hmm.
If they encounter a business that's accessible, they're going to buy from you. If they want your product, they're going to buy it. And they're going to find out how awesome your product is because they were able to buy it. And they're going to buy it again. And if their friends and family want your product, they're going to recommend you. So not only are you getting the people with disabilities, but you're getting their friends, their family, their social media network that are more likely to buy from you. Now, there's another factor to be considered too. When you make things accessible to people with disabilities, the changes you make to your website. We're talking about websites, but this actually
Mm-hmm.
involves every aspect of your business. The layout of your store, if you have a store, whatever the thing is, the changes you make to make the things accessible actually make them more user friendly for everybody. I
Yeah.
was going through a clothing store with my mom. Somehow, I let her drag me into a clothing store. Probably because I needed to buy professional clothes. That's usually the driver there, and the aisles. And I'm holding my hand, maybe I don't know. Well, narrower than the width of my shoulders, so maybe like I don't know, 13 inches apart, 14. Would you say?
Yeah.
The aisles were that narrow. So I'm
Mm.
walking down this aisle and I'm like shouldering clothes out of my way on both sides, and I'm thinking I'm leaving a trail of clothes behind me. And if I'm not, I should be. And
Mm.
and I'm thinking this is claustrophobic and I can't wait to get out of here. And I'm thinking if I was in a wheelchair, this would be impossible. If I had like PTSD or some sort of issue that made it hard to be in closed spaces, this would be nearly impossible. I don't have either of those issues, and I don't like it, and I don't want to come back.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Well, let me ask you this. On websites, because, I know you've got to use readers, and I don't know the technology involved and what you're having to do on your end to make that possible. But what should a business have in place so that you can use those features?
So the first thing that you want to understand is that screen readers read the text on the screen. So if you have an image, if you have a diagram, if you have text that describes that diagram and gives me the information that I need, that's what you want. So we have alt text, which is images that you can actually make it so that when the screen reader encounters an image, it reads the alt text. That's what that alt text field is for. But if it's
Yeah.
a diagram, if you have a description, an explanation, then you've made the diagram accessible. Links and buttons, if they are labeled correctly according to their purpose, and the labels are associated with the element. Remember
Okay.
that we hear the screen rather than seeing it. Remember also that we use the keyboard to navigate. And so do a lot of people. So do people with some motor disabilities.
Hmm.
So do some people that are just really tech savvy prefer to use the keyboard. So every clickable element needs to be able to be operated with the keyboard. Now, how do you accomplish this? Because most people don't build their own websites, and the ones that do just throw them up on GoDaddy or Wix or something, and be very, very careful with those because they do not encourage accessibility. So if you hire a web developer, ask them two questions. One, is the website based on semantic HTML? So do they use HTML for most of the websites and only use the other languages like JavaScript when HTML isn't adequate? Like if they need, the dynamic content, some of the dynamic content, you need JavaScript for that.
So
Also, do they
semantic
prioritize?
HTML,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt. So semantic HTML is what you want? Is
Yes,
that what you're saying?
yes.
Okay.
Semantic HTML is good.
Okay.
Um, so the bedrock of your website needs to, if it's semantic HTML is inherently accessible. When you
Mm.
use JavaScript components and things like that, you need to do things to them to make them accessible and to make them screen reader recognizable. I'm not saying don't use those things. I'm saying when you do, when your web developer does, make sure that they're accessible. Um,
Okay.
The other question I would ask is, do you prioritize accessibility? And they're going to give one of three answers. Huh? Okay, wrong answer. Oh yeah, the ADA. Yeah, we got to make sure it's ADA compliant, or you'll get sued. Actually, that's also the wrong answer, because an ADA compliant website might not necessarily be an accessible website.
Hmm.
Absolutely. It's important that everybody be able to access your website. When I build a website for my customer, I want to make sure that whether you have a disability or not, you can access it. Okay, that's the right answer, because that means that they're prioritizing accessibility for the right reason. Now,
Yeah.
say you have a website. Put yourself in the chair of the user and take a drive through your website. A lot of business owners don't do that. They're too busy, I don't know, running their business. Take a drive through your website. If you want to do a quick and dirty keyboard test, put your mouse away. You can have it back when you're done, I promise. Tab through your website and interact with everything using the keyboard. Hit enter to click on something, space to click on a button, space or enter, and tab between clickable elements. If you can do all those things, that's a major win. Um, if there's a part of your website that you can't tab to, or if there's clickable elements that you can't click on, then that is an opportunity for improvement, as my very positive business coach would say.
Angela, I love this. I'm going to have you slow down to help me out a little here, and repeat something for me and the audience. Um, I have to be honest. I'm going to do this to my website, and I'm going to see because I'm very, very curious. I use my mouse,
Mhm.
so
Like most
I
sighted
don't,
people.
yeah, and I don't even know how to maneuver if I didn't have a mouse. So, and you said a few things that I think I need to know. So if I don't have a mouse, tabbing, I know how to tab, right?
Yep.
So then you just hit enter if you're on a link. That makes sense,
Yep.
right? Are there other keyboard movements we need to know? Am I asking that right? Um,
Yeah, yeah. So if you're
okay.
if you're in a form field, you should be able to tab between all the form fields.
Hmm.
If Okay, now I'm gonna let you have your mouse back for about 5 seconds. If
Okay.
you can click on a form label and focus is placed in that form when you do that. So if you click on the label first name, you should be
Hmm.
able to then type your first name. If you can't
Right.
do that, that means the label isn't associated with the form field, and that means that screen readers might not read it.
Okay.
It also means that people that use, you've heard of Dragon Naturally Speaking, you can basically talk to your computer and make it do things. People that
Hmm.
use Dragon are going to have a harder time too using the form if the label's not associated.
Oh, I just thought of something. So you actually did go to my website and filled out a form. Was it, did you have any problems with the
I
form?
honestly, I filled out so many forms in the past couple of weeks, I cannot answer that
You don't
question.
recall? Okay. I may have to have you go back
You're gonna
and
have to
look
send
at
it to
that
me
to
again.
see.
I
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
there have been
because
so
I would love to
many.
know.
Yeah, and with varying, some of them are a breeze. Some of them, the only hard part is figuring out how to answer the questions like, why should you be on my podcast? And
Yeah.
sometimes that part is easy compared to filling out the form.
Mm,
Which category
yeah.
your form falls into, I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that, that we connected because this is such a great topic. And I know with like voice, Google voice search and Alexa and things like this, I know that there are ways for that companies can be listed so that it can be read, right?
Mhm.
On those. Because if you don't do that, you may not uh, come up on Alexa or certain things. Is that right?
Well, and let me add something else. An accessible website will appear on in search engines. They'll be ranked higher in search engines.
Oh, I do have another question though. Alt text, you mentioned that. So, and I know what that is. And for people who don't, if you have an image on your website, it'll give you an option to put in alt text. So if it was a picture of me, I could say a
Mhm.
picture of Edwina Adams, right? What, but is there a certain way to write alt text? Does it need to be really long and very descriptive, or
No.
just a basic,
Yeah.
just
So
basic
it
info?
depends on the purpose of the image. So if it's your profile picture, just the picture of you that, we all have our professional picture on our website. You can just say the alt text can just be your name.
Okay.
You don't have to say picture of, image of, because the screen reader already tells us it's an image. Um,
Oh, good to know.
yeah, and a lot of people think they got to put picture of or image of. That's not. Um, Now, if you are a realtor, for example, and you're selling a house, please put alt text on your pictures. I have yet to see a realtor who does that.
Hmm.
And if you're a realtor, maybe you want to be more descriptive. Now, be careful.
Okay.
Just tell us what's on the picture. You can highlight the good things, but don't get too carried away.
Can you give us a good example? Yeah.
So if you've got a picture of like an apple tree in somebody's front yard, you can say apple tree in full bloom.
Hmm.
Now, say it's not a realtor's website. Say it's the website of a gardening thing. You would want to include the variety of apple tree. Um, because I would assume that with a gardening website that would be relevant. So the thing you want to remember is what information do you want this person, what is the important information that you want to convey? Because if the apple tree is just on your website just being pretty, really we don't even need to know. You can either just say apple tree, or you can actually mark that image as decorative. Because if it's just eye candy, if it doesn't have anything to do with the content, it's just distracting.
Okay.
We don't especially totally blind people, we don't think about pictures the way that you guys do.
This is so good.
We take
Such
a
good
very
information.
utilitarian approach to pictures.
Okay.
The purpose of sending you a
So,
picture of my dog is to listen to you go, "Aww."
yeah.
That's the purpose.
uh,
That is the
right.
utilitarian function of that picture.
All right. So you have your business, Real Life Access, and how can other businesses connect with you if they say, "Oh my gosh, we need Angela to come look at our stuff and we want to be compliant for one, because we
Absolutely.
care, and
Yep.
two, because we would love to tap into that $2 trillion that we could be missing out on."
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
how
And
how can they find you?
they can find me by going to www.reallifeaccess.com. And on there, you'll find some information about what I do that is going to be updated very soon. Um, you'll find the link to my group coaching boot camp that's going to be starting sometime in the spring. You're going to find
Okay.
information about my flagship course series. Um, and you're going to find the opportunity to subscribe to my newsletter. And you're going to find a calendar link. I'm going to put my calendar link up there because you need to be able to book some time to talk to me. Um,
Yeah.
Book a discovery call with me. We'll talk about what your goals are, what your situation is, what you want to accomplish, and we'll figure out what service works for you. Because it might be that you want to learn how to make your website accessible. It might be you just want to learn tips and tricks. It might be that you want to learn how to create an accessible organizational culture. Or it might be that you just want somebody to fix your website.
Yeah. Well, and let me ask you this. Who is your group coaching program for?
It's for business leaders. So it's
Okay.
for people that aren't techies. It's basically for people like you. You
Hmm.
run your business, you want a good thorough overview of accessibility so that you can implement it, but you may or may not want to take a deep dive into any of the topics. You just want a good foundational knowledge of accessibility, that so that when things are inaccessible, you know how to fix it or who to go
Yeah.
to fix it.
All right. Well, I really, really found this so valuable, and I hope everybody does. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything we didn't talk about that you want to add?
Accessibility benefits everybody. It's not just a legal mandate. It's not just oh, we want to do something good for the disabled people. It Accessibility is building a world that everybody can use. It
Hmm.
benefits everybody. It benefits you. Um, if you've ever been on a website and thought, what the heck am I supposed to do here? Then accessibility benefits you. And not to mention, an accessible business is a prosperous business.
So, well, I love it, Angela. Thank you again. I'm so glad you had that mindset shift and that you're out there literally creating your own noise, which is so powerful because it truly is a narrative of inspiration, strength, and encouragement that is helping so many people.
Yep.
So thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I'll make sure that people have that website, that it'll be on the on screen text for people as well that happen to watch the show and that aren't just listening, but and hope people are reaching out to you. Okay. This is needed, right?
All
So
right.
thank you, Angela. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you very much for giving me this chance.
You're so welcome.
Hey, thank you for listening. Two things. If today's episode brought you inspiration, strength, or a new perspective, I would be so appreciative if you subscribe and leave a review. Your feedback helps me keep bringing stories and insights that matter most to you. And second of all, to stay connected or engage with the community, go to edwinaadams.com/links. That's LINKS. And remember, you're one step closer to building beyond your adversity and crafting a life of impact and purpose. Keep making noise, and we'll see you on the next episode.